Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege.
What's happening, fight fans? It's your boy Chris Cross. Yes, this is the TCMMA podcast, and it's an exciting way to start the week because we got pay-per-view going down this Saturday night. And it's exciting because anytime you got pay-per-view, more fans are coming in, people are paying attention, and that makes me excited. Plus, it's one of my favorite divisions in the UFC. Second to lightweight. The welterweight title is on the line. Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad 2, if that's what you want to call it. The first fight ended in an eye poke. And therefore, we never got to find out what happened. But we did get a little time in that fight. And you can kind of make some assumptions based off of the limited action that you saw. But at the same time, anything can happen when the title is on the line. This is a whole different setting. And throughout the show today, we're going to preview some fights. We're going to give you some predictions, certainly for the main card. But let's begin with the early prelims and some fights you got here. The first fight of the night, you got Modestas Bukauskas taking on Marcin Prachnio. Bukauskas is the favorite in that light heavyweight fight. Also, you got Sam Patterson versus Kiefer Crosby. Patterson is the favorite in that welterweight fight. He's 11-2 coming in. Preston Parsons is a slight favorite to beat Oban Elliott. And you got 5 fights in the early prelims, so it's going to be action-packed and very quick fight after fight until you get to the finale of the early prelims where Mick Parkin is predicted, at least in the odds, to beat Lucchesi Brzezinski, which is going to be a tough fight. And if he can do so, he'll remain undefeated at 10-0. So that's how the early prelims look. Now, in our first prediction today, we're going to get into the second round of prelims, which is basically your main prelims. Women's strawweight division, Molly McCann, who's going to be the crowd favorite for sure, taking on Bruna Brazil, and I never trust Brazilians. But Molly McCann is a decent favorite, but does that mean I'll go for her or predict her to win? Not necessarily. Check this out. In the women's strawweight division at UFC 304, you got Meatball Molly McCann taking on Bruna Brazil, right? Molly McCann will be the hometown favorite, of course. She's 14-6 coming in. Brazil will be 9-4 coming in. Now Brazil, 2 inches taller at 5'6". McCann, 4 years older, 34 versus 30. So that's not a big deal here, but Molly McCann's got to get going. Brazil, 4-inch reach advantage. Both ladies fight right-handed. Meatball Molly, big advantage on the feet, 5.8 significant strikes per minute to about 3 for Brazil. So that's going to be a huge difference. Takedown game also favors Meatball Molly. So she's a nice favorite in this fight, to say the least. She's coming off the win over Diana Belbita by submission. Lost the previous 2 to Stolyarenko and Blanchfield, who's a very good fighter. For that, she beat Hannah Goldie, Luana Carolina, and Ji Yeon Kim. And Brazil fits right in that mix. Brazil lost to Luma Lukbumi by decision and Denise Gomes by decision. She does have wins over Shauna Bannon by decision and Marnik Mann by KO. And she did get KO'd by Gomes. So correction there. So she's 2-2 in the UFC, really 1-2. The other win coming at the Contender Series. So this should be an easy fight for Molly McCann. She's going to have to defend takedowns pretty well, which she has in the past, which is 43%. So this fight may be a little closer than one would believe. Maybe in the first round she gets taken down, or the second round, creating an interesting third round. But Meatball Molly has more experience. She's going to come through here in front of the home crowd. Like to see her get the finish. But she wins either way, in my opinion, to move to 15-6. Women's strawweight division, UFC 304. Yeah, and anytime Molly McCann fights at home, she seems to be very successful, a lot like Patty Pimblett, who's got a tough fight against King Bobby Green. But in this one, I got to go with Molly McCann. Bruna Brazil's a good fighter, right? 9-4, but where are those 4 losses coming from? That's a lot of losses early in the career, and Molly McCann should get the win here. Now, when she faces tougher opponents, she doesn't necessarily do well, but with that crowd backing her, it's like a lot of pressure that leads to an exertion of energy that you can't match in different settings. So I look for her to win. I cannot go against her in this one for sure. So that's the first prediction of the night. Also in the another prelim fight, you got Colin Loughran taking on Ramon Tavares. That's a 9-1 versus 10-2. Loughran is a slight favorite there. Another prelim fight, Nathaniel Wood is 20-6. He's almost a 5-1 favorite to beat Daniel Pineda. And then in your prelim main event, usually one of the most exciting fights of the night because they're trying to set it up for the main card, you got Muhammad Makayev versus Manel Kape, and this fight is already trending. So we definitely want to make sure we get the prediction for this one. And this is a fight that can really go either way. But Makayev has a lot of hype around the name at this point in time. So let's get into this prediction right now. In the flyweight division at UFC 304, you got Muhammad Makayev taking on Manel Kape. Interesting fight. Makayev 12-0. Manel 19-6. Makayev 2 inches taller at 5'7". Manel's 30. Makayev just 23. Interesting. Makayev 2-inch reach advantage. He fights right-handed. Manel fights southpaw. Manel's a much better striker, right? Over 5 significant strikes per minute. Makayev is trying to get the fight to the ground, where he lands 2 takedowns on average every round. Now Manel, 77% takedown defense. So that's the question mark here, is if Manel can defend these takedowns and keep the fight standing, right? But Makayev so far has been impressive. Just looking at the last 5 fights, 12 takedowns, 6, 4, 3, and 3. And the last one was against Alex Perez, good fighter. Tim Elliott, good. Jafel Filio on the way up. Malcolm Gordon, good fighter. Submitted 3 of the 4 of those. Ooh, boy. Manel's got a tough one on his hands. Now, he's looked great in the last 4 fights, beating O'Day Osborne, KO. Zalgis Zalmagulov, KO, and then had back-to-back decisions against David Dvorak and Felipe dos Santos. So, the trick is here is you look at Manel and you're like, I think Manel might win this fight. Then you look at Makayev and you say he's undefeated and he's young and he's going to be getting better and better and better, and you want to believe he's going to win. And on paper, it's one guy's a striker in Manel. Makayev is a takedown specialist. Manel happens to defend takedowns well, but Makayev is relentless. And I have to believe that that's going to take over in this fight, especially over 3 rounds. Now, if Makayev's going to lose this fight, you'll start to see in the 3rd round, Manel will start to defend every takedown attempt in the 3rd. And that wouldn't be a good sign. But I still think Makayev overcomes and has a good 3rd round to get a close victory here on control and takedowns a smart way. Not one that everyone will be happy to watch, but one that Makayev will have to do what he has to do to win, in my opinion, and we're the 13-0 flyweight division, UFC 304. Yeah, in these settings, and it depends how good the takedown specialist is, but to me, Makayev's takedown ability is going to take over, like I said, in the 3rd round. I don't see this being 2-0 after 2. I see Manel going off on 1 round. I see Makayev going off on another. Hard to say who gets off first. But in round 3, Makayev will take over with the takedowns, which are actually harder in the 3rd round. Guys become more slippery. They slow down a little bit. Takedown defense rises. So it's not like Manel can't win this fight. I expect a very, very close fight in this one. But we got to go with Muhammad Makayev. Now, as we jump into the main card, things get exciting very quickly. I'm really intrigued about this next fight. Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. Man, both these guys are very capable of winning, and it should be an absolute exciting fight to start the main card. So let's get into it right now. In the featherweight division at UFC 304, you got Arnold Allen coming in at 19-3, taking on Giga Chikadze, who comes in at 15-3. Wow. Giga, 4 inches taller at 6 feet. He's 35. Allen's 30. Giga's got a 4-inch reach advantage. He fights right-handed. Allen fights southpaw. So here we go with the differences. Both guys, moderate strikers, right? Giga, 4 significant strikes per minute. Allen, 3.4. So too close to call there for sure. Allen lands like a takedown every 3 rounds. Giga, way less than that. So there's not going to be a lot of takedowns in this fight unless one guy deems it necessary. We're looking at a pretty slow-paced fight. Now, Allen's 75% takedown defense, even better. He lost to Evloev and Max Holloway by decision, but that experience is going to pay off potentially. Beat Calvin Kattar by KO, Dan Hooker by KO, Sadiq Youssef, Nick Lentz. Oh boy, you're getting my attention. Giga, 70% takedown defense again, so this fight's going to be standing. He beat Alex Caceres by decision. Okay? You got my attention because I thought Alex Caceres was rolling at that point. Guys won like 6 of the last 7 or 6 of the last 8 or something like that. Lost to Calvin Kattar by decision. Was outstruck and gave up 2 takedowns. Arnold Allen KO'd him. Okay, so that's all I need to see. That's all I need to see. And I know you say, well, there's more to talk about here in this fight. Giga this and Giga that. And, listen, he may pull it off, but common opponent, Arnold Allen KO'd him. Giga lost. That makes it easy for me. I like Arnold Allen to win this fight, to move it to 20-3. Hopefully by finish, in my opinion. That's the way it goes. Featherweight division. UFC 304. Yeah, so exciting fight there to start the main card, but, we got to go with Arnold Allen. It's big featherweight showdown. When you're in the main card of a pay-per-view event, it's much like being in a main event, just as big as being in a main event of a UFC fight night, if not bigger. So the stakes are very high here. Both guys want to come in and get the victory, but Arnold Allen needs a victory very badly. He should get the win, and the big question is, will he get the finish? I think he will, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, as we creep up, you got Gregory Robocop Rodriguez in Fight 4. We have yet to do that prediction. We're usually well ahead on the main card for pay-per-view events, but this fight was snuck in there as the card has been restructured. So, stay tuned for that in a separate video for sure. But as you get into Fight 3, things get interesting real quick. You got King Bobby Green, who just changed his name to King Green, right? It's no longer Bobby Green, although a lot of people are going to be researching Bobby Green. Taking on home favorite, home crowd favorite, much like Molly McCann. Patty Pimblett is the favorite, or the crowd favorite for sure, and you're going to have that in each of the last 3 fights. That's why this thing is in England, if you didn't know. So, when you're looking at the lightweight division, anything is possible. Fights can go any which way, but Patty Pimblett has been solid at home, much like Molly McCann. But listen, King Green is a bad dude, so let's get into this prediction right now. In the lightweight division at UFC 304, you got King Bobby Green taking on Patty the Batty Pimblett. I love this fight. Bobby Green 32-15, Pimblett 21-3. Ridiculous. Both guys 5'10". Bobby Green's 37 now. Patty Pimblett getting better every time. He's only 29. All right, he's not even 30 years old yet. That's crazy. Patty Pimblett 2-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Bobby Green 6.5 significant strikes per minute. That's really good. But Patty 5.1. So Green a little more active, right? Green actually lands more takedowns as well. Both guys right about 1 takedown per 3 rounds. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, right? Because of the experience of Bobby Green. He's got a 74% takedown defense. He beat Jim Miller by decision. Lost to Jalen Turner, right? The Tarantula. Very good fighter. Beat Grant Dawson and Tony Ferguson. So this is going to be interesting. Now the Batty hasn't lost. 5-0 in the UFC. Most recently against Jordan Levitt, Jared Gordon, and Tony Ferguson. So let's just focus on Tony Ferguson. Patty Pimblett, 106-62 in significant strikes, 1 takedown. So we upped them by 42 significant strikes. Bobby Green, right? Flip back to that, 137-54. No takedowns necessary. Ended up getting an arm triangle submission late into round 3. Remember that. So, so the question here is, okay, you got the experience with Bobby Green. They're both active. They both get a takedown here and there, right? Bobby Green is where he's at. He's a veteran, but he's 37 years old. Paddy Pimblett is young at 29, but he's getting ready. Every time we see him, he's going to be better than he was the last time. The question is, has he improved enough to get to the level of Bobby Green? And you might say, wait a minute, especially if you're a big Paddy fan, you're like, wait a minute, Bobby Green, like, yeah, he's going to beat Bobby Green if he continues on, if he's getting better and better every time we see him, which he should be. But man, this is a tough one, ladies and gentlemen. This is a tough one to predict. It will be in England. People will be pulling for Paddy Pimblett. Bobby Green wants to spoil it. Ooh wee. Gosh, I like Bobby Green, but I'm going to lean towards Paddy Pimblett here. He might lose the fight, but he always finds a way to win, it seems like. And that's what makes him so tough. It's like he might look like he's going to lose his fight and then find a way to win. So I just can't go against him right now, even though he's the underdog. That was tripping me up a little bit, but I think Paddy Pimblett wins his fight barely to move to 22-3. When I say barely, he might be down in significant strikes. He might avoid a couple submission attempts. He might have to use some intangibles to win this fight in the 3rd round. I think that's what's going to happen.
Paddy the Baddy.
In my opinion, here, lightweight division, UFC 304. And yeah, so I mean, got Paddy the Baddy winning at home. And you heard a little crowd chant there. I can't wait to hear this. We were just testing it out, you know. But
Oh, Paddy the Baddy.
yes. Yes.
Oh, Paddy the Baddy.
I just love when he's fighting in England and you hear that from the crowd all over the place, man. It makes it really exciting. And it's hard to lose in that setting when you got so many people pulling for you. But if anybody is ever the spoiler, it's King Bobby Green. And but Paddy's fended him off fight by fight. But this is going to be the toughest one for sure. And in every fight, it looks like Paddy may lose at some point, and he finds a way to win. So it's hard to count this guy out. I expect Paddy the Baddy to come through in a very tough lightweight fight against experienced King Bobby Green. Now, in the next one, you got an interim title on the line in the heavyweight division. Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. And it's almost like it's for the title because John Jones, you just don't see him very much. But this is going to be an exciting fight where Tom Aspinall is the home crowd favorite. So let's get into it right now. In the heavyweight division, your co-main event for the interim heavyweight title at UFC 304. You got Tom Aspinall coming in at 14-3, taking on Curtis Blades, who comes in at 18-4. So two guys used to winning, right? Aspinall, believe it or not, is 1 inch taller at 6'5". He's 31. Blades 33. They're both in the prime. Blades has a 2-inch reach advantage, 80-78. They both stand right-handed. Aspinall is very active, 7.7 significant strikes per minute to 3.5 for Blades. Both guys possess KO power for sure. Now, Blades lands nearly 2 takedowns every round. Aspinall lands 1 per round. But the intangible here is that Aspinall has 100% takedown defense. That's important. Winning 2 in a row against Sergey Pavlovich by KO. Marcin Tybura, KO. But 3 fights ago, let us not forget, Curtis Blades KO'd Tom Aspinall very quickly in like 15 seconds. So that's a problem. And Tom Aspinall is going to have to get past that KO. He's only had 2 fights since then. Curtis Blades did lose to Sergey Pavlovich, right, by KO, even though Aspinall beat him. So it's kind of confusing when you look at that situation. Then he came back and beat Jailton Almeida, a guy that everyone thought was just going to cruise past his opponents. In fact, Almeida had 9 takedowns in that fight, but Curtis Blades ended up landing the elbows and the hammers and ended up getting a second-round KO to win that fight. So this is a very confusing fight. Tom Aspinall is a 2-1 favorite. He's fighting at home. But when you face a guy that KO'd you, that's got to be weighing heavily in your mind. And I forgot about that. And I was leaning towards Tom Aspinall before this fight. And the fact he's 2.5 to 1 favorite makes you want to pick him here, but I like Curtis Blades. I mean, you got two guys going at it, and one KO'd the other. So I don't care that he's the underdog. I like Curtis Blades to do it again here on the road in Tom Aspinall's home, basically, where he's the crowd favorite. Blades wins it, gets the interim belt, and John Jones is going to love this. He'll move to 19-4, heavyweight division co-main event for the heavyweight interim title at UFC 304. Okay, so I made a big mistake on this prediction because it wasn't like Curtis Blades KO'd Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall got injured. And I just, for some reason, that slipped my mind, and I was just looking at the stats. But still, with all that being said, Curtis Blades can fall here for sure. But, man, he just continues to surprise you. Like, I thought Curtis Blades was down and out, and now all of a sudden he's surging and trending all the way up to an interim title shot. And if he gets to win here, you can start calling out John Jones. So I think Curtis Blades is going to upset the crowd here and Tom Aspinall. Either way, I feel that way. But I certainly made a mistake saying that he got KO'd. I mean, that's how it's registered, right? As a TKO, but the fact is Tom Aspinall just got injured. Now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to get into the big title fight. Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. And the welterweight division was once very interesting. It still is, but not quite as interesting as when you had Usman at the top, Colby Covington chasing him, Leon Edwards on a major win streak. Now it's an unbeaten streak, only because of the eye poke against Leon Edwards. So you have a very exciting situation. But here's what it sounded like back in the day when Leon Edwards KO'd Usman. One of the most surprising finishes that we've ever witnessed since doing this podcast. Check this out.
And you've seen these fights too from like Adesanya. Usman usually dominates, but so people are expecting a big finish here, but Leon Edwards is a worthy opponent. You see that now. Okay, we get it.
Oh my God! Oh my God, Leon Edwards KO'd Usman!
Are you kidding me, bro?
Usman just lost the welterweight title. The best pound-for-pound fighter in the world gets knocked out in the final minute, and people are going to be going bananas. Holy crap! Oh my God. Wow. Oh my God. Usman took a left leg kick. Oh my gosh. Just as I was saying, this is why this is the greatest sport. If you're still standing in the end, you can, one thing, boom! Left leg kick right to the chin, and Usman is done. Unbelievable. All right, let's see this now because Usman got up complaining, but okay. All right, he's down. Yeah, Usman's out. Forget it. Not even a question. Oh my gosh, man. Wow. Unbelievable. This is going to go down as the most shocking finish in UFC history. I don't care what anybody says. The most shocking finish ever. Holy cow. Wow. Wow. By knockout and new. Woo!
Tell you what, it still gives me chills to see that. Yeah, still to this day, one of the most surprising finishes in UFC history, and it just changed the entire landscape. He came back and beat Usman a second time. And the reason why it was surprising is Usman, like in any other sport, you're just cruising to victory. Football, it's like, you're running the clock, just run the ball, take a knee, whatever, and then you fumble and the other team scores. I mean, that's basically what happened here. Usman just needed one more minute, and it doesn't matter what happens in the fifth round. It's going to be 10-9 Edwards, and he wins 48-47 across the board. Clearly. And it ended up going the other way on a big finish. And that's why this sport is the most exciting in the world. Because anything can happen. I mean, anything. Now, let's get into this fight. Edwards versus Belal, the rematch. We only have a little bit to go off of in the previous fight because it was stopped early. But it's certainly going to be an exciting fight. And when a title's on the line, all eyes are watching. Check this out. In the welterweight division at UFC 304, this is your main event for the welterweight title. You got Leon Edwards, current champion, coming in at 22-3, taking on Belal, remember the name, Muhammad, who comes in at 23-3. So both of these guys with very similar records. This is going to be a great championship fight. Not one that I think a lot of people are really wanting to see, but at least it gets the division moving forward regardless of who wins. Now, Edwards is 3 inches taller at 6'2". He's right in the prime, 32 years old. Belal Muhammad, 35. Edwards has a 2-inch reach advantage. He fights left-handed. Muhammad fights right-handed. Now, Belal's better in terms of activity and takedowns. He lands 4.6 significant strikes per minute to 2.8 for Edwards, and lands 2 takedowns every 3 rounds. Edwards just 1 every 3 rounds, but Edwards has good takedown defense. So as we dig a little bit deeper, Rocky, aka Leon Edwards, like I said, 70% takedown defense. That's really good. Beat Colby Covington by decision to defend the belt. Beat Usman twice to win the belt and retain the belt. And beat Nate Diaz prior to that. Now, on the other hand, Belal Muhammad's on a tremendous run. He did have the no contest against Edwards, but other than that, he's run off like 9 straight victories. Right? He's unbeaten in the last 10 fights. So both of these guys very similar. This is like when you had Oliveira versus Makhachev, both guys on tremendous winning streaks. But because of the no contest, it's hard to say winning streak, which they both are on. But when you look at the unbeaten streak, both of these guys are like 10, 11, 12 fights in since they lost. So it's a perfect matchup. Now, despite the numbers, what we saw in the first fight is after the first round, Leon Edwards led 19-8 in significant strikes, right? The fact that Edwards is a lefty really was confusing Belal Muhammad. He was having trouble being active, right? Think about it. He was averaging like 1.4 significant strikes per minute compared to his normal average, which is way below the normal average. So I think that's a sign of what's to come in this fight. Leon Edwards tend to keep his opponents off balance, which we saw against Colby Covington, right? Colby just landing 44 significant strikes in a 5-round fight. Did have 2 takedowns, but I don't think Belal will do that to Leon. Leon's too good here. He's got the height advantage. He's got the experience. He's the current champion. He's fighting at home. For all those reasons, I like Leon Edwards to get the job done in this fight and win it by decision. It's going to go the distance. In my opinion, it's going to be a long fight, but he'll win by unanimous decision. Then move to 23-3, and it's hard to say how, but he's just going to limit Belal Muhammad. That's the bottom line, to retain the welterweight belt here at UFC 304. Yeah, and again, I mean, the only one we've gone against is Tom Aspinall, right? Among the home fighters, you're talking about Molly McCann, Paddy Pimblett, Tom Aspinall, and Leon Edwards. And the fact that Leon's fighting at home and he started out so strong in the previous fight leads me to believe that he's just going to walk away with this victory, probably 48-47, right? It'll be like 3-1 going into the 5th. Belal will surge at the end because he has to, but Leon Edwards will stave off the finish and get the victory. That's just how I see it going. And Leon Edwards even going further to say, you know, Belal doesn't even have a big enough name to fight at UFC 300, in so many words. He had multiple other offers, including Khamzat Chimaev, believe it or not, to fight at UFC 300, but none of those things came to fruition. Travel issues for Khamzat, other potential fights, right? Big names to get him on the UFC 300 card, but the UFC did the right thing in saving him for this setting because, you know, after 300, everybody fought, and you're going to have some weak cards after the fact. So this at least keeps the card strong at the top for UFC 304, and you got a title on the line. But make no mistake, Leon Edwards is coming out with the victory here, in my opinion, and he'll do so fairly easily, at least over the first 4 rounds. That's how it plays out, in my opinion. And that's UFC 304. We got a lot more coming this week. I'm sure there'll be breaking news each and every day, so we'll be back the next 2 days with follow-up podcasts, so stay tuned for that. But for now, this is your boy Chris Cross. Hope you enjoyed the prediction show here for UFC 304. Until next time, hope y'all have a great day, and God bless, as always. Peace. Peace.